Okay, let's dive right into this explainer, starting with an absolutely bone-chilling incident from 1952 that still, to this day, haunts the Appalachian Hills. I want you to really picture this for a second. You're walking through the dark, dense, totally unforgiving woods of West Virginia. It's dusk, the air is super thick, maybe a little too quiet. You've just watched this massive, blinding fireball literally crash into the hillside above you, so naturally, you climb up to investigate, right? But then, suddenly, creeping out of the deep shadows, you see it. A 10-foot-tall, glowing, hissing monstrosity just gliding straight towards you. I mean, it sounds like a scene ripped right out of a 1950s sci-fi nightmare, doesn't it? But for a group of locals in the tiny town of Flatwoods, this was not some late-night double feature. This was their very real, very terrifying reality on one incredibly long night. Today, we are going to explore one of America's most legendary, most terrifying cryptid encounters. We're going to look at the sheer, unadulterated horror of what these people reported experiencing, and then, and this is the really fun part, we are going to systematically untangle this entire myth to reveal the fascinating, totally grounded truth hiding right behind the legend.
So the absolutely crucial point we need to start with is simply asking that one big question. What really landed in the dark woods of West Virginia? To wrap our heads around this, we have to travel back in time to the evening of September 12, 1952. Set the scene in your mind. We are in the quiet, super secluded village of Flatwoods, nestled deep in the Appalachian landscape. Remember, this was an era way before smartphones, way before the internet, and way before modern light pollution. When the sun went down in the woods back then, it was a profound, impenetrable, pitch-black darkness. What went down on the Bailey Fisher farm that evening wouldn't just trigger a wave of visceral, contagious panic among the locals. It would eventually draw the full attention of the United States military and forever alter the folklore of the entire region.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Night of Terror.
The whole story begins innocently enough, honestly. You've got three local boys, Edward May, his brother Fred May, and their buddy Tommy Heyer, and they're just hanging out, playing a game of football in the schoolyard. The sun is starting to dip below the tree line, shadows are getting long, and then, out of nowhere, at exactly 7:15 p.m., this brilliant, fiery object just streaks across the darkening sky. Some people later described it as a pulsing red light, while others called it a sensational fireball. From where the boys were standing, it looked like it descended and violently crashed right onto a nearby hillside. Driven by that classic mix of boyhood curiosity and pure adrenaline, they bolted home to tell the May brothers' mom, Kathleen May, who was a local beautician. And guys, this simple, quiet evening escalated into 48 hours of pure, relentless panic across Braxton County, so fast it'll make your head spin. By dusk, Kathleen had thrown together a makeshift search party. She grabbed a 17-year-old National Guardsman named Eugene Lemon, his dog Richie, and a flashlight, and they all hiked up that pitch-black hill to find this crashed object. And spoiler alert, the terror did not stop on September 12th. Just 24 hours later, the nightmare actually spread to a neighboring town. So as this impromptu search party finally crests the top of the hill, expecting maybe to find a smoking rock or a meteorite, they find something that would literally haunt their dreams forever. Eugene Lemon's dog, Richie, actually runs ahead into the darkness, but a few seconds later, the dog comes sprinting back, whining, barking frantically, tail completely tucked between its legs in absolute terror. The group pushes forward anyway, and suddenly they hit this wall of pungent, putrid, sickening sulfuric mist, just hanging heavy in the cool night air. Peering through that thick fog, Eugene points his flashlight toward a pulsing red light, and what that beam of light illuminated was so overwhelmingly horrifying that Eugene reportedly dropped his flashlight, screamed at the top of his lungs, and later began vomiting violently, just completely overwhelmed by the sheer psychological and physical distress of it all. The crazy part? This entire hilltop encounter lasted maybe 17 seconds. That is less than a standard TV commercial. But those 17 seconds of pure terror sparked a mystery that has endured for more than 7 decades.
Moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy of a Monster.
Now we really need to talk about what they saw, because this was not described as a bear or a wildcat or some hairy woodland beast. The witnesses described a full-blown extraterrestrial entity. We're talking about something towering roughly 10 feet tall and maybe 4 feet wide. Its head was encased in this bizarre, dark cowl that was shaped exactly like the ace of spades. Just let that image sink in. Inside that spade shape were 2 glowing green-orange eyes that witnesses said looked exactly like portholes on a ship. From the neck down, things got even weirder. It appeared to be wearing this dark metallic armored dress or suit, which was lined with thick vertical pipes. It had these twisted, almost claw-like hands protruding from the darkness. And honestly, perhaps the most terrifying detail of all, it didn't walk. There were no footsteps. It just emitted this loud hissing sound and levitated gliding swiftly and smoothly toward the terrified group before they finally broke and ran for their absolute lives. Fred May actually emphasized the mechanical nature of the beast later on, making it sound way less like a biological, breathing creature and much more like a robotic, alien probe. But like I mentioned earlier, the horror absolutely did not end on that hilltop. The very next day, September 13th, the terror evolved into something new. George and Edith Snitowski were driving with their 18-month-old baby near a place called Fraintown, which is about 20 miles south of Flatwoods. Suddenly, in the middle of this totally deserted, dark road, their car completely dies. Engine off, lights out, everything. Instantly, that same foul, sulfurous odor fills the air inside the cabin, and their baby starts just screaming. Out of nowhere, a blinding light illuminates the darkness, and hovering right there directly in front of the hood of their car is a massive, 10-foot-tall creature. Now, from the waist down, it matched the exact description of the Flatwoods Monster, that metallic, pipelined armor. But from the waist up, it was a reptilian humanoid with this ghastly, bony head. It literally dragged a massive, lizard-like clawed hand right across the hood of their stalled car before just effortlessly drifting back into the dark woods. And the second it vanished, their car mysteriously restarted on its own. Just incredibly spooky stuff.
Which brings us to our third section, to look at the bigger picture: Cold War paranoia.
You see, to really understand how this panic spread like wildfire, you have to realize that 1952 provided the absolute perfect storm of anxiety in America. The Cold War was escalating rapidly. Families sitting down for breakfast were reading daily newspaper headlines about the constant threat of atomic tests, mysterious new chemical warfare gases, and the height of McCarthyism. There was this genuine, deeply ingrained panic over secret Soviet weapons and the very real potential for a sudden invasion. On top of all of that, the East Coast was experiencing a massive, highly publicized wave of regional UFO sightings at the time. So think about it. When a massive streak of light hits the sky and a sickening, weird mist rolls down a secluded West Virginia hill, these locals were already psychologically primed for an invasion. They weren't walking up that hill expecting to find a lost wild animal. Their minds were already subconsciously prepared to face advanced, secret government technology or an all-out extraterrestrial threat. The situation in Braxton County actually escalated so quickly and the local panic was so thick you could cut it with a knife that the United States government had to step in. The Air Force quickly dispatched investigators from their newly formed Project Blue Book. Now, if you don't know, this was a highly confidential program led by the renowned astrophysicist Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and its whole purpose was to investigate unexplained aerial phenomena. And look, the military wasn't necessarily showing up because they believed in aliens. They were trying to prevent a mass, nationwide panic, and more importantly, ensure that whatever fell out of the sky into those woods wasn't some kind of highly advanced Soviet spy technology. So the Air Force, alongside local authorities, totally scoured that hillside looking for a crashed ship. And what did they find? Well, they found a few random skid marks in the dirt and an odd gummy deposit on the grass, but ultimately, they saw, heard, and smelled absolutely nothing extraterrestrial. The military quietly packed up, filed the sightings away, and moved on. Their official conclusion was that the fireball was simply a meteor, and the pulsing red light was just an ordinary aircraft beacon blinking in the distance. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly. The local population wasn't buying it. I mean, you don't just collectively hallucinate a 10-foot-tall hovering mechanical beast with an ace of spades head, do you? Well, that brings us right to the fascinating modern scientific investigation.
Let's get to the real meat of this explainer in Section 4, debunking the extraterrestrials. Decades after the terror of 1952, paranormal investigator Joe Nickell, who is a senior research fellow for the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, decided to travel down to Flatwoods to conduct a thorough, boots-on-the-ground investigation. He wanted to strip away the folklore and systematically dismantle the supernatural elements of the story, replacing fear with cold, hard science. And honestly, the contrast here is incredible. On one hand, you have terrified witnesses perceiving a 10-foot-tall, robotic alien spacecraft occupant with glowing porthole eyes. But Joe Nickell's brilliant deduction of reality, he concluded that what they actually saw was a common barn owl, scientifically known as Tyto alba, just chilling, perched on a tree branch in the dead of night, illuminated for just a brief second by a shaking flashlight right under the trail of a meteor. I know. It sounds like a massive stretch at first, but when we actually break down the evidence step by step, it fits together like a perfect lock and key.
Let's walk through Joe Nickell's grounded reality together. First up, the UFO that kicked off the entire panic Well, astronomers actually documented a large meteor passing over multiple states that exact same night at that exact same time. Second, that eerie pulsing red light on the hill, Nickel definitively linked it to an active airplane beacon located in the distance that was visible from that specific hilltop. Okay, but what about the pungent sulfuric mist that made the National Guardsmen literally vomit? It was very likely just natural low-lying atmospheric fog, common in the mountains, and the physical sickness? That is a well-documented physiological reaction to extreme sudden panic and adrenaline overload. Now for the monster itself. Nickel concluded the alien was a barn owl. Why in the world would he say that? Well, because barn owls have a highly distinct, heart-shaped or, you guessed it, spade-shaped facial disc, and when a flashlight beam suddenly hits an owl's eyes in the pitch dark, they reflect the light straight back as massive, glowing, porthole-like orbs.
And this is exactly what Nickel pointed out in his final research. He stated that the perceptions of the witnesses are entirely 100% consistent with an owl perched on a limb. But wait, what about the 10-foot-tall metallic dress and those weird pipes? Well, Nickel noted that the witnesses themselves admitted their descriptions of the creature from the waist down were actually incredibly vague. Think about the physics of the situation. When you shine a weak 1950s flashlight up into a tree canopy, you illuminate the owl sitting on the branch, the glowing eyes, and that spade-shaped face. But the body underneath it, that's just shadows, dark foliage, thick brush, and tree trunks. When you're in a state of sheer, heart-pounding terror, fully expecting to see a Martian because you literally just watched a meteor streak overhead, your brain plays tricks on you. It rapidly connects the owl's illuminated head to the dark, cylindrical shape of the tree and brush below it, instantly creating the optical illusion of a towering, hovering entity wearing a dark skirt. It's a masterclass in how fear manipulates human perception.
And that leads us to our final chapter, Section 5, A Cryptid's Cultural Legacy.
So where does that leave us today? Well, the absolutely terrifying Flatwoods Monster of 1952 has totally flipped the script. It's become a massive point of civic pride, affectionately known by the locals today as Braxy. It's true. If you drive through Sutton, West Virginia right now, you can actually walk right into the Flatwoods Monster Museum. The town has even built 5 massive, 10-foot-tall monster chairs, shaped exactly like the creature, placed all around the county just for tourists to take fun photo ops in. And get this, if you visit all 5 chairs, you get a free Braxy sticker. It's amazing. The monster even has its own annual Flatwoods D's convention, complete with vendors and speakers, and it has heavily crossed over into mainstream pop culture. Braxy appears as a mutant enemy in the massive hit video game Fallout 76, and there are even references to it in classic games like The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. What was once an omen of Cold War doom, a creature that literally made grown men sick with fear, is now an inside joke, a beloved regional mascot, and a surprisingly powerful economic engine for Appalachian tourism.
Andrew Smith, who is the executive director of the Braxton County Convention and Visitors Bureau, perfectly summarizes this modern sentiment. He says, "I believe the group saw something that night. As to whether it was the Flatwoods Monster, I'll leave that up to the imagination. And honestly, that right there is the pure beauty of cryptid mythology. At the end of the day, whether it was just a regular barn owl drastically distorted by darkness and intense fear, or a genuinely unexplained mechanical probe from another world, the story itself has become a real, tangible artifact of West Virginian identity. It gives the community a really fun way to talk about their local history, to connect with curious outsiders, and to celebrate their own unique flavor of strangeness."
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought to chew on. The story of the Flatwoods Monster brilliantly shows us how totally ordinary things, a passing meteor, a blinking airplane beacon, a startled barn owl, and a heavy dose of Cold War cultural anxiety, can combine in the human brain to instantly create a 10-foot-tall robotic nightmare. It really forces us to ask, how does human psychology create monsters in the dark? What other legendary, terrifying creatures out there in our folklore are just the byproducts of our own expectations, our deep-seated fears, and a simple trick of the light? Next time you're walking in the woods at night and you see something inexplicable lurking in the shadows, take a deep breath and ask yourself, are you seeing what is actually physically there, or are you just seeing exactly what you are most afraid of? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the shadows.